Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second block of the Scratch Conference Ignite Talks. In this hour, we are welcoming presentations on a range of topics, from teaching coding to refugees to our very own Scratch Foundation team presenting their research on Scratch and digital well-being. Enjoy the session.
Hello, I am Scratch, and I have a wonderful companion here with me. Hi, Earth. How are you?
I'm good too, thanks. Hey, I've been thinking a lot about the upcoming project on Scratch is the bridge that unites borders.
Yes, it's a fascinating topic. Scratch has really created an incredible connection between Scratch colleagues from different Latin American countries.
Yes, it is a wonderful story. That's why we have here Veronica from Mexico and Eduardo from Brazil to tell us about it.
Call the children and once
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Eduardo and Beryl. I am so happy to have you here. Hello,
Hello, it's
Eduardo.
a pleasure.
Oh, it's a pleasure for me. Hello, Scratch. I am so glad to be with you and the Earth. Can you tell us about the Scratch Latin American team? Do you remember how it all started?
Of course, it started with Learning Creative Learning program at MIT Lifelong Kindergarten Lab under the guidance of Mitchell Resnick that was informed those working groups based on language, common interest, and most importantly, empathy.
Exactly. That was the foundation for building bridges of friendship between colleagues from different countries. Our work has always had an inclusive approach, and creativity in learning was crucial for our teaching.
Yes, creativity has really been our guiding trait. The friendship formed that led us to think about working collectively.
It started between Mexico, Cuba, and Colombia. Each region organized a face to face session, and it was amazing to see how our ideas, feelings, skills, and knowledge merged into one project.
With the pandemic in 2020, you had to adapt and decided to join forces to create the first completely virtual Scratch Day Latam. 8 Latin American countries participated. What an achievement!
Yes, it was challenging, but we did it. And the best part is that in 2022, a Portuguese speaking team joined us. This created a special synergy by including participants from Brazil.
Exactly. We need to emphasize how support each other to being part of another in creative learning leads to equity and inclusion worldwide.
Exactly. We need to emphasize how supporting each other. This part in the world side. Another in creative learning leads to equity and inclusion.
That's right. And we should also mention how these experiences have impacted our local communities.
Well, yes, it is impressive to see how something as simple as a coding platform can have such a profound and lasting impact.
I completely agree. Scratch has been more than just a tool. It's been a true bridge between cultures, ideas, and hearts.
Oh, you flattered me, Eduardo. Exactly, Scratch. We hope other groups follow us discovering the power of collaboration and creativity.
I'm sure with you, we have a powerful message. and an incredible story to tell.
Let's do it!
Once upon a time in 2008, a group of friends in Mexico loved playing and learning with computers. They joined a special event called the Children and Youth Computing Meeting. At this event, they discovered a fun tool called Scratch, which helps kids make their own games and stories. These friends had a big idea. They wanted to have a special day just for Scratch in Mexico. So, in 2009, in the city of Jalapa, they held the first Scratch Day in Mexico. They planned lots of fun workshops for kids, parents, and teachers, all working together. Even friends from Boston, USA, joined in online. Every year from 2009 to 2024, the event grew bigger and better. They had more workshops, more helpers, and new places like La Salles School, Papalote Children's Museum, and the Interactive Museum of Jalapa. They even had events in cool places like the National Center of the Arts and the ZigZag Interactive Science and Technology Center. By 2019, they had friends from all over the world, including Argentina, Brazil, Colombia, Costa Rica, Ecuador, Cuba, Panama, Mexico, and Spain, where they became the closest friends. Each year, Scratch Day had a special theme, and everyone could join different workshops related to it. The leaders of these workshops made sure everyone had fun while learning and creating together. At the start of Scratch Day, everyone would gather to say hello, and sometimes special guests from MIT like Mitch Resnick and Natalie Rusk would join. After the welcome, everyone went to their own virtual rooms to play and learn. At the end of the day, they all came back together to share what they had made. In 2022, Scratch Day Latam now has two languages, Spanish and Portuguese, when the Brazil team starts offering workshops. Today, we are a large community from various parts of Latin America, and we are going to grow more and more. Come with us. All the fun workshops from 2020 to 2024 were shared online on YouTube. You can watch and join in any time by visiting the event's website. Come and visit us. And that's the quickly story of how Scratch Day Latam became a wonderful tradition of learning and fun for everyone. Scratch is the bridge that unites borders.
Let's sing.
From Educativas to the world.
Thank you, everyone.
Hi, everyone. We are the Center for Cyber Education at Mississippi State University. Today, we're going to be talking to you about recruiting one community at a time, and my name is Shelly Thompson.
Hello, my name is Amanda Taylor. I'm a project manager at the Center for Cyber Education.
Good morning. My name is Shelly Hollis, and I am the director at the Center for Cyber Education.
So when we were looking at building the Scratch community events, we chose to follow the format of the Scratch Foundation. So we provided low floors, meaning we made it easy for everyone to get started, and everything was provided to the teachers and the school districts for an easy lift on their end. We also focused on wide walls. We appealed to a wide range of interests and passions. A variety of activities were done at each community event, so there was something for everyone. And last but not least, high ceilings. Provide scaffolding for an extensible experience, and tutorials were provided when needed, and volunteers were present to answer questions promptly. The purpose behind the Recruit the Community events were to focus on computer science vital skill set for students to be truly college and career ready. Lack of support and encouragement from family and the community does not inspire students to pursue computer science. A community event featuring student work, hands-on activities, and industry stakeholders demonstrates to parents that computer science skills are attainable for all students. These events help participants overcome stereotypes and understand the value in all students learning computer science is key to increasing diversity in computing fields.
So to get to the event agenda, all events were customized based on Scratch classroom integration and the group size of the event, but otherwise contained all of the same agenda items. This included a welcome, a guest speaker, Scratch gallery walk or tutorial, a Scratch family banner creation time, robot playground, and refreshments. So the guest speaker would come with the goal of inviting participants to listen to their story, to be relatable as a role model for the computer science field, and to demonstrate to parents the necessity and significance of their children learning computer science. The objective was to share their journey to a career in computer science, explain how they apply it in their daily work, and to address any questions from the audience. The gallery walk, or a tutorial in some cases, was where students would show off their work that they had done, their Scratch work that they had done in classes before the actual event. First, they would show it to their families, and then they would show it to the other families that would walk around and see their work. In cases where Scratch was not integrated in the classroom before the event, we would have a live tutorial, a Scratch tutorial for the families to become familiar with the platform before they would go on to make their family banner. What we found is coding became addictive to these parents. This picture on the right-hand side is a father who continued to code on Scratch long after his family had moved on to other activities at the event because he was so enthralled with Scratch after seeing it for the first time only an hour before. The family banner creation was the highlight of every event. During this time, each family would work together to create an animated family banner in Scratch that was unique to their family, culture, and values. In order to demonstrate that everyone can learn to code, the children would direct their parents on what to click and do. This was using a strategy called a driver navigator. We would also have a robot playground at each event. This was a time for families to experience with a variety of robots intended for a range of age groups in a very low-risk environment. The robot playground demonstrated applied programming, further emphasized that everyone can code, and was a viable way to use computer science in practicing skills in other subject areas.
So we created a guide for school districts and others to use to enable them to host their own Recruit the Community event. And this guide can be accessed along with the resources and lessons learned and all the planning notes at the website you see on the screen, which is cs4ms.org/scratch-community-events. Thank you for your time. And if you have any questions or would like to follow up with us on how this event worked, please contact us at thecs4ms@gmail.com.
Hello and namaste from India. I am Sai Prasad.
And hi, I'm Harshita.
Hello, and we are from Leadership for Equity, today presenting here on how teachers and educators from rural India are using creative computing to unlock students' potential. To give some context, it all began with the National Education Policy, which was released in India in 2020. It was after 34 years that a national education policy was released in India, and it specifically emphasized use of creative computing and computational thinking to accelerate learning outcomes in the classroom. It specifically highlighted that it is high time that creative computing and computational thinking should be integrated in the daily teaching practices in the classroom so that students learn faster and in a much engaging way. What it made was it created a lot of influx of digital infrastructure in the public schools across India. In a recent survey, we got to know that around 73% of the schools have at least one functional desktop in the country. But where the breakdown was happening was only 59% teachers received any kind of training on how to use a computer. Now, when we say teachers are trained on using computer, it's not about how to use creative computing or computational skills, but it's just about how to operate a computer. And that's where we thought there is a high need and also a great opportunity to reach out to the teachers and students in the rural parts and provide them a targeted learning course, which is basically an opportunity for them to upskill themselves on how to use creative computing and computational skills. And that's where we partnered with the Department of School Education and started a teacher training program in the state of Maharashtra. And today we are here to present one story out of the thousands of teachers who have undergone the training through this initiative.
Today, we want to share an inspiring story of government public school teacher Anita Madam and her students from Pal village in Satara district, which is in the western Indian state of Maharashtra. The story talks about how she has defied all odds to bring computer science education and creative computing in her school. In many rural parts of India, schools face significant challenges like access to road, transportation, infrastructure issues, and often a lack of access to technology and other digital devices. The Pal village in Satara has no exception to this. Every day, children struggle to reach school due to these challenges and access issues. Anita Madam, a primary school teacher in her early 40s, teaches in a Marathi medium public school in Pal village. Despite all the infrastructural and access level challenges faced by the rural school, she has always been determined to bring quality education to her students. Being a tech-savvy person, she was looking for an innovative way to get her students interested and to learn about 21st century skills and build on them. In this quest, Anita Madam got to know about Computer Science Teaching Excellence Program, which Sai was talking about earlier, to learn and teach creative computing in classroom and enrolled herself for the program. She learned Scratch as a beginner and taught her 30 kids from grade 7 creative computing from just one computer device which was available in the school at that time. This was all towards one goal to participate and showcase her students' potential at a district level hackathon. Her determination and students' performance prevailed over adversities where her student win this competition at district level. And then they aspire to participate further in a state level hackathon competition ahead. There, Anita madam had a belief in her students' potential, that they can learn and they have a confidence and they can shine high. But on the other hand, her peers, village, and the school were skeptical about it and were not supporting this idea. In fact, in one of the conversations, she told us that the school principal denied the permission to send the children to another town, because this might be a waste of student time and also it's a matter of safety. But Anita madam was determined and she took her students with her on her own expense to Pune city, which is in another urban town in Maharashtra, traveling 125 miles to participate at a state level event. At the state level, in just mere 3 days, her students learned more about Scratch and physical computing and how this can be a powerful tool to problem solving. They had picked up a community level problem in farming and created a project solving a farming problem in rural India, in the rural villages. For the context, in India, many farming lands are also surrounded by the wild animal habitats, which results into animals entering into the fields, damaging crops. Sometimes there is also a danger to the animals as well. These students have been raised in these villages and have seen this as a first-hand problem and experienced this. So they recognized this problem and created a project on preventing crop damage caused by animals entering into the fields at night. They developed an innovative solution using an ultrasonic sensor which beeps if the animal is entering the field and notify the farmer on their phone as an alarm, resulting saving the crops. In this way, students took a problem from their own community and built a solution using their Scratch project. Students, after this, very, very confidently presented this project at the state level hackathon event in their own local language, which is Marathi here. And this idea and solution was recognized by the government officers, peers, and tech company giants and everyone who were present in the competition. And this was the turning point for students and teachers.
So Anita ma'am's students, they didn't win the state level hackathon, but what they won and what they went back with is a renewed sense of confidence and commitment to leverage computer science in their learning experience. And there was also a very unexpected surprise when they went back to their village. They actually saw that the people who were opposing them initially from participating in this space, in this competition, welcomed them using fireworks, lots of smiles, and lots of appreciation from their peers, from their communities, from their parents. And this further extended when Anita ma'am got to know that in their village, they are getting a dedicated space, a cyber cafe, where her students can learn creative computing and computational thinking every single day. And this space was provided by the community members to Anita ma'am free of cost. The internet, the laptops, everything was made available by the community. And she started teaching students just beyond her own grade. She started teaching students from the community, from other grades in the school, from nearby schools. And this is just one of the projects that we are seeing on the screen, where the students are using block coding and Scratch platform to present a distance measuring sort of a device that they have made. It calculates the distance from the motion sensor that they have in their hand to the object which is placed near that sensor. And it's a great way of also Anita ma'am showcasing how creative computing can be integrated into other subjects, and it can be used to clarify and teach concepts from other subjects to the students from the public schools. And this is just one story of Anita ma'am. We have seen across the rural sections of Maharashtra in India, where thousands of other students are creating such projects from the public schools, which have been so far deprived from this opportunity, which they are now getting, and they are now, I would say, making the most of. And this is another video where a student is actually using creative computing to learn something as simple as what is an odd number and an even number. So this is the project that they have created.
तर ज्याच्यात आपण जो नंबर टाकू तो A1 आहे का ऑड ते कळते. तर चला आपण प्रोजेक्टला सुरुवात करूया. आता ग्रीन फ्लॅग क्लिक करायचं, मग ते म्हणून एंटर द नंबर. इथं आपण 2 नंबर टाकू आणि एंटर करू. ते म्हणले द नंबर इज इवन. असं आपलं प्रोजेक्ट आहे. आपण
So you can see how happy the student is, how much fun they are having learning creative computing in the school, and then leveraging it to learn mathematics in their classroom. And we are just hoping that this movement of creative computing, which has started in one district of Maharashtra, reaches more and more states and regions in India. So far, 12 districts are currently leveraging this teacher training program that has been initiated, and so far 7,000 teachers have been trained in using creative computing in the day-to-day teaching practices, and 6,000 projects have been created by teachers and students from the public education systems. And that is our hope, that going ahead, as an organization, we enable more and more teachers from the public education system, and it reaches to a point where everyone collectively refuses to let children down. Thanks so much for listening to us. If anyone wants to know more about our project and the work we are doing, please reach out to us on leadershipforequity.org. You can read more about our work, and we are happy to collaborate on any of these initiatives. Thank you so much. I'm Sai Prasad.
And I'm Harshita. Thank you so much for listening.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Maria Ginelli. I am the Chief of Staff and Director of Research at the Scratch Foundation, and I am joined by my colleague, Nikita Caleb. Nikita, would you like to introduce yourself quickly before we get started?
Sure. Thanks, Maria. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. My name is Nikita Khalid, and I'm the Research Manager at Scratch.
We're about to dive in. We're going to tell you a little bit about some research we've been doing at the Foundation, looking at the intersection of Scratch, well-being, and children's engagement. So I'm going to get us started. I'm not going to bury the lead. I'm going to start with some of the things we're learning to show you what we're working towards. So some of the things we've learned in the past few months are that children in Japan are more likely to talk with others on Scratch than children from any other country in the world. We know now that children in the United States share more projects than children from any other country. Children in Australia, the United States, and the UK remix projects at higher rates than in other countries. And interestingly, non-binary children are much more likely than others to share their projects and participate in the community. These are some of the things we're learning during the course of this research study, and Nikita and I are going to tell you more about that study and what we're working toward in the long term. So the objectives of our research project are twofold. On the engagement side, we want to know how we can design for, identify, and measure children's engagement with Scratch. And on the well-being side, we're really interested in how Scratch can learn from, contribute to, and be a thought leader in the sort of emerging children's digital well-being space. So the research project has 4 different data sources that we're considering. The first is platform data, and we'll be sharing a lot of information about that with you shortly. We're doing a microfeedback analysis, which Nikita will tell you a bit about, and which some of you might see with your children as you're working with them in Scratch in the coming months. In June, you might have noticed our Wellness Month series of studios. We did 8 studios that we called the RITEC Studios. RITEC stands for the Responsible Innovations in Technology for Children Framework. It's co-produced by LEGO and UNICEF, and it is the academic framework we're using to guide our research. And then last but certainly not least, this fall we will be conducting interviews with Scratchers from all around the world to learn how they feel when they're using Scratch. So before I turn it over to Nikita, I just want to mention the data sources here. So we are looking at data from 29 countries. The 13 countries on the left are the countries that were included in the original RITEC research that was published 2 years ago. And we wanted to do a comparison between their findings and ours. So we started with those 13 countries. The countries on the right are the Scratch top countries by new users and activity. Any country you see with an asterisk, that just indicates that they are in both lists, the RITEC group and our top countries. And then on the platform side, I'll just quickly mention that we're looking at 3 different types of data from our analytics. We are looking at project data, which is 46 variables, user data, which is an additional 46 variables, and then we have studio data, which is 19 variables. So we have in total 111 variables across a data set of 29,000 projects. So our research really involves 3.2 million data points just for this one source. So we have a lot at our fingertips to help us learn about the Scratch community and how it differs in different parts of the world. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Nikita, who is going to take you through some of our preliminary findings and tell you what we're working toward. So over to you, Nikita.
Thanks, Maria. So I'll just be going through some of the cool things that we found and just some descriptives that we've run on the project data so far. We cut the data from the 29,000 to ages specifically 8 to 16 because those are the ages that we were interested in and also the ages where we see really, really high engagement in Scratch generally. The mean age for our data set was about 12 years old, and the sample with everything being cut and outliers being removed ended up being around 17,886 children. The 29 countries that Maria described previously are still included in the sample. And for a gender identity breakdown, we have about 32% identifying as girls, 54% identifying as boys, but we also have less than 1% identifying as non-binary, as well as those identifying as other, and those that also preferred not to describe their gender or not to say. But we just list girls and boys here because they were the largest in the sample. The oldest average age was in Brazil at almost 14 years old, and the youngest average age that we found in our sample was found in Russia at 11 years old. Here's just a table of some descriptive stats as well, but we've cut these by gender. So you see here that the largest of our sample would be those identifying as males or identifying as boys. And then you see the non-binary individuals at 0.66, so less than 1% of the sample identified as non-binary. But what's interesting is that they also have some of the largest numbers of average number of projects shared at 199. Compared to 21 projects shared on average by girls and 63 shared on average by boys. We also reported percentages of projects shared and percentages of projects remixed. So I'm sure everyone here knows what a remix is, but if you don't, a remix is just when somebody takes a project that was created by someone else and adds to it and changes it in some sort of way. We also listed percentages of comments. So a lot of the sample, because it's predominantly those identifying as boys, you see higher percentages in that column. And we'd also like to just highlight that because we do see a lot of girls using Scratch and we want to kind of bolster that, we want to do some more work kind of promoting more for girls and giving them some resources as well, just to get those numbers up too. Now I'll just go into some cool charts. So here we visualize comments per country. So you'll see on the horizontal or x-axis, it's just labels for each country that was involved in our study with those 29 countries. And the different colors just indicate the different bands of those identifying by which gender. So you'll see here, one of the key insights is in Japan, we have so many people commenting. And of those people commenting, a lot of them are identifying as boys. Then countries like Australia and Canada, we also see, and the United States, we also see high engagement in social behavior specifically to commenting, as well as in the UK. This one just describes projects shared by country. So we looked at the total number of projects shared per country. The US definitely has the most that we've saw in our entire sample, followed by the UK, Australia, Canada, France. The different bands here just indicate whether or not the project was shared with the community or not. Sharing behavior is actually very interesting. So although people are creating a lot of projects, not all of them are being shared. I think our whole sample had about only 14% of projects on average being shared. This one visualizes remixes. So you'll see the red part of the bands are those that were not remixed, and the turquoise, I guess you could call it, were those that were producing remixes. So from this, you could just glean insights like the US had the largest proportion compared to all the other countries of projects being remixed at 22%, followed by the UK that was at 11% and Australia at 9% remixing. Now we can kind of move on to some other cool stuff. So we just ran what's called logistic regressions, and these will help us describe how Scratchers' gender and country of origin might predict how they'll engage with Scratch. Here what we did was we ran a statistical test called a logistic regression, and we looked at variables of sharing behavior. So are people sharing, and it was binary, yes or no. And then we looked at gender. Specifically, we looked at female, male, and non-binary. And you'll see here at the tops of the bars, those decimal points just indicate a percentage of a predicted probability of sharing. So for example, you can see here that non-binary individuals are at 22.9% likely to share when compared with those identifying as girls or those identifying as boys, which are relatively smaller. And also girls and boys don't really have very much of a significant difference between their engagement or likelihood to engage in sharing, but you see the non-binary individuals do. And here we also did the same type of analysis, but we did it specific to country of origin, and we visualized them from most to least, just so it would be kind of easier to see and to interpret. So of our total sample of 17, a little bit more than 17,000 Scratch projects, we see that the United States, Thailand, Ukraine, the UK, and Spain are some of the higher probability of sharing countries. So you'll see here, like for example, for the United States, it's 0.256, and that just indicates that about 25.6% of they are likely to engage in sharing behavior if the United States is their country of origin.
Let me just rephrase that in a little bit less statistics words, Nikita. So what we're saying here is on average, 25.6% of kids in the United States will share a project. And that goes all the way down to the end of our sample, which is Albania, where that goes down to just 5.4% of kids are likely to share projects there. So this kind of information, we're not yet sure how we can act on it in a way to promote sharing, but it's a starting point and a baseline for how we can think about the features that we'll develop going forward.
Here we did have visuals, but it was a little bit easier to interpret if we just did it through bullets. So what we did here was we categorized projects, whether or not they were an art-based or a code-based project. So art-based projects were essentially those that were used more so as a canvas with backgrounds and drawings and sprites and coding, and didn't have any type of coding elements or coding blocks. And coding projects were, of course, those that had the use of different coding blocks within them. So countries that had the highest probability of creating an art project were Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Uruguay, Pakistan, and France. And countries with the highest probabilities of engaging in creating a coding-based project were the Czech Republic, Ukraine, Italy, Russia, and Taiwan. And you could see also by the percentages that it is more likely that coding-based projects are going to be created in general as opposed to art-based projects. Now we'll go into what types of projects do kids create and share on Scratch. And we did this with some qualitative analysis. So what we did was we used a sample of project titles, instructions, and notes and credits, and we categorized the projects based on keywords for our initial analysis. So we had these 7 categories, and you'll see that identity was described by words like bio, me, identity, myself. We had categories for whether projects were education-based, game-based, story-based, art, incorporated some type of music element, or had indications of collaboration between Scratchers. And here's just a bar graph that shows, based on the sample of projects that we had, how many of them kind of fell into all of these predetermined categories based on keywords. So we had a lot of projects in the sample that didn't have titles, so we couldn't use all 17,000 because some Scratchers didn't title their projects, or they were just labeled untitled or had missing information. But for those that we did have information on, almost 20% were found to fall into the identity category. We had projects also that many did include music elements. That doesn't necessarily indicate that they're music heavy projects, but they included an audio file that the Scratcher uploaded on their own. So they went out of their way to go ahead and put in some sort of music that they were interested in including in the project. And then we also had the third highest here were game-based projects.
I just want to note quickly here that a project can be included in multiple categories. So for example, I can have titled my project, music video about myself. And then that would have been classified as both a music project and an identity project. So these are not discrete categories. We just wanted an understanding of how many projects or what percentage of projects might appear in each of these categories.
I'll pass it back along to Maria here so we could finish up, but these are just some examples of what we're going to be doing in the coming months with the rest of our research study.
Thanks, Nikita. So we're going to be diving into, and by we, I mean Nikita, our resident statistician, is going to be doing latent class analysis, which is the statistical way that we're going to develop personas or archetypes so that we can understand what the spectrum of our users is. So what is a novice user likely to engage in? What is a super user likely to engage in? And the analytics that we have on our platform combined with this latent class analysis will sort of auto sort these kids in a way that will help us know how to better support them with the work we're doing on the product development side. We're also doing micro feedbacks. Some of you will see this, not everybody will be exposed to this, but we've created a series of 4 prompts to ask kids how they feel at different points in the project creation process. The project itself that they create is very useful, but it's an output of what they do. We want to know how they're feeling when they're doing it. And so we're going to be asking them some questions in real time. We're going to be focusing those prompts specifically on groups of kids from the 29 countries that we're focusing on in this study so that we can do some correlations between their responses to these qualitative questions and the data that we have on the back end. And then I mentioned the RideTech Wellbeing Studios. We're in the process of analyzing all 8 of those. We have thousands of studios and comments there, as you can imagine. And we just closed the application process for our brand new youth advisory board, which will be starting in September. Next week, the entire Scratch staff is going to be engaged in the evaluation process. We got almost 500 applicants from all around the world, and we're really excited to bring our pilot cohort together to engage them in conversations to help us support this research and better understand how we can support them in Scratch. And I think it's up to our next guest, who I believe is Tiger. Thank you, everyone.
Teach coding to children in challenging conditions. So I'm going to show you a video first to set the scene.
Today marks 12 years since the beginning of the civil war in Syria. What began as civilian protests amid the Arab Spring uprisings of 2011, now by some estimates has killed at least 500,000 people, displaced millions more, and destabilized the region.
From war-torn Homs, Aleppo, Damascus, into Jordan, a country exhausted by a flood of refugees. One year ago, Zaatari was built to hold 5,000 Syrians. Now it holds 23 times that number, a fraction of the 500,000 in Jordan.
In October last year, we first visited Zaatari to understand the challenges in the camp. We noticed a poor education system, with limited teachers, many subjects missing, and old computers with no internet connectivity. The children also lived in purgatory, with no sustainable jobs to look forward to. That would require a Jordanian ID, citizenship, and work permits, all of which they don't have. Women also suffer from unfair gender expectations. For example, one of the girls we interviewed said that her parents wanted her to drop out of school and get married and have children. But there's hope, because we encountered a group of knowledge-hungry kids with big career aspirations in the field of social impact. For example, this boy that we interviewed said that he'd love to be an engineer to rebuild his home country. Our hypothesis is to train and then connect these children to outsourced technology-enabled jobs, which are borderless, so they don't have to have the 3 requirements above, and they don't have to leave the camp, are high growth, and of course, capital efficient. So in December, we went back to teach a 2-day program that contained 40 children ages 14 to 16 and an even mix of boys and girls. We enabled them to make social impact games. Some examples were one girl who made a website for disabled kids to access activities. A boy made a marketplace for residents of Zaatari to sell their art. However, we also faced some challenges, such as the limited amount of time we had with the children, old computers with no internet, so we had to bring in a hotspot, and of course, the language barrier. My primary language is English, and they speak Arabic, so that is why we opted to use Scratch. Because it is user-friendly. It is visual, so you can see what you're coding. And there's no need to type, no syntax errors, like Lego. If the pieces fit, then it works. All of the blocks are also color sorted to give different functions. Scratch also provides presets, such as the background and sprites, to help you build a scene. They also provide translated tutorials and code, which makes it accessible to people around the globe. My favorite part is the collaboration. Remixes allow you to add on or change other people's projects. It's such a great application for encouraging beginners to think like coders. Here's a video of us teaching the refugees the second time.
Technology. Yes. Love with the computer and the technology.
The building blocks, you just drag them together. So everything you want to have the starting block?
على اول شيء بدنا نعمله انه دائما نختار المربع تبع العلم. اذا كانت هي موجوده شو بده يصير؟ هي صاروا 3 اشياء عندي.
Right now it says if the up key is pressed, right?
Okay.
And then inside you put the movement, so you would want it to face up.
Okay. نرتب مرة ثانية. كانت على الطاولة اللي بدهم يعدلها. أيوة. إعادة التدوير عشان يكون صح. فإحنا بنفكر باللا منطقي. إذا حطينا حال
المطالعة ونكون الناس عشان نتضمن قاعات للمكتبة.
Here is our amazing crew that made this all possible, as well as our great partners. So what does the future hold for Dust Astronauts? Well, first, we'd like to expand it to other camps, such as the Cox's Bazar, the largest refugee camp in the world located in Bangladesh. We'd also like to install rapid deployment shipping container classrooms and offer more career support, which can include job placement, mentorship, certifications, and education advice. So how can you help? Well, we are hungry for volunteers, trainers that are interested to go into the camp and teach those kids, and mentors who can be remote and give them career advice. We'd also appreciate any donations that would help us in teaching, such as computers or shipping containers. So thank you for watching, and learn more about it at dustastronauts.com.